This guy called Matt Deal, he runs a local newsletter, takes five $20 notes and he tapes them to a lamppost, to a street light. He got 1 million views across TikTok and Instagram and 198 newsletter subscribers.
I did a little deep dive on what I think he could have done better for actual newsletter leads versus just getting views. So a couple things that stood out to me. One is
if you just write a generic newsletter that can be summarized by AI, that means most people aren't going to bother to read the actual newsletter. No one's going to see your ads. Your business model just died, right? Do you agree, disagree?
All right, Louis. So we are back with another Letterland pod, and you had a lot for me this week. You came in with a lot of rants. Our Slack was pretty busy. So I want to get into this first one. You must have sent me this 3 or 4 times this week. You kept updating me on how this was going. And so interestingly enough, it was actually a social post that was a quote unquote cash drop, which I'm still not 100% convinced. I follow that, but I'm curious why you kept sending it to me and what does it have to do with newsletters?
Nothing to do with newsletters. I just don't have any other friends, and I just I was feeling lonely. Just thought it was the only link I had. I'd copy and paste it and send it through. No, so this guy called Matt Deal, he runs a local newsletter. One of our earlier guests, TJ, actually put me onto him as a good follow in the local newsletter space. And I've been watching what he's doing. His newsletter is called Eating Baltimore, I think.
Yep.
Is it? Yeah. It's called Eating Baltimore. Yeah, I'm right. I saw this when he posted it on Twitter that he shared one of these viral social videos that he'd attempted where I think basically what he does is he takes five $20 notes and he tapes them to a lamppost, to a street light. So they're basically hidden, right? And in the video, it shows the location. That goes to TikTok, goes to Instagram, Facebook Reels. And then the idea is that people who follow him can see that. The first person to see that if they know the location, they can go find the location. They'll get the $100. Apparently, it's pretty common for other kinds of social videos. I don't know if you've seen that kind of thing. There's a bunch where it's people will just randomly pay for someone's dinner or randomly give people who are waiting outside a concert free tickets to Taylor Swift and stuff.
Right.
For the reactions. It's actually really interestingly, those tend to be sponsored a lot by the betting companies.
Have
you seen that?
Yeah.
Because they get huge views and then they'll just have the betting company's logo in the corner.
Yeah.
I saw him do that. And I was like, okay, so the reason that I really like this, and I think we should be upfront, just tell people it did not really pay off in terms of newsletter subscribers for him. He got 1 million views across TikTok and Instagram and 198 newsletter subscribers, I think.
Okay, so that's 50 cents a sub. That's not terrible.
50 cents a sub. Oh, right. Yeah. I'm mispronouncing. How do you? Yeah. So okay. In that sense, it did work out for him. Yeah, it's a good acquisition cost. But I mean, 1 million views converting to 200 subscribers is insane, right? For context, my YouTube account, I get one new newsletter subscriber every 6 or 7 views that I get. Other people maybe don't do quite as well, but still are getting at least one every 50 views or so. So to get one every 50,000 views, every 50,000 views is one out of every 50,000 views is converting to a subscriber is maybe not the success that you'd be hoping to replicate.
Yeah, but I actually don't think he was optimizing for newsletters. I think he was optimizing for views.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And he got I think he got 8,000 new Instagram followers or something and a couple of thousand new TikTok followers, which is great. Definitely if you're in the local media space, I mean, one of the first place that sponsors are looking is not weirdly at your subscriber count. It's at, are you popular on social media as a proxy for whether they should bother sponsoring you or not. So that's definitely useful. But the reason that I like this was because it's a newsletter doing something entertaining and interesting and copying what D2C brands, what consumer apps, what everybody else is doing to grow on TikTok and social video. And for some reason, the newsletter space has not really tried to engage at all with what's working there. And I don't know why. There's no reason that it wouldn't work. It's just we've completely stayed away from it, more or less. So it was really interesting to see someone go out and attempt it. And I'm sure we'll talk now about it, but there's a bunch of stuff Matt probably could have done and probably will do next time to maybe get a few more newsletter subscribers out of it and maybe not need as many views. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What was your like? Were you annoyed that I was sending it to you? What were you thinking when I was sending it through?
Yeah, by like the third one, I was pretty annoyed. No, I was just trying to figure out what what the point was, because it was hard to figure out what the tie to the newsletter was, and I was actually shocked that he even got 198 or 197,
Mhm.
whatever it was, subs. Um, and so I did a little deep dive on a mini deep dive on what I think he could have done better and what he could have done next time if he wants to optimize for uh, for actual newsletter leads versus just getting views.
So
So a couple of things that stood out to me. One is there was literally no call to action in the caption. I think he just talked about the cash giveaway. He's like, go find this. That's fine. But like 101 stuff, like put a call to action in the caption. And whether that's for, signing up for the newsletter or something else, like just tell people they have to do something, because people are generally dumb on the internet. What else I would do? I would juice it a little bit. So I'd probably pay a few other people, or call in some favors. Maybe, if it's Baltimore, right? Like call in some local influencers and just be like, hey, can you guys, post about this? I would also try to, make it go a little bit more viral. I think that he only posted it once on his like Instagram and TikTok. So about where it was. And I think that's
you
fine.
think it needs to go more viral,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it could
more
go
than
way
a
more.
million views?
Yeah, yeah. I think it could go
How
way
how
more
big is
viral.
Baltimore?
So I think that I want people driving in from out of state to come find this money, right? So that's where I think you could like increase the money a little bit, and I'll get to that, how I think we're going to make it, even more viral. But I would start doing other things like posting some wrong guesses, right? And maybe he was doing this in stories and I just missed all of that stuff. But like I would really lean into it. Like if I was going to spend the time on this, it's like if people are DMing you like begging for clues or something, I would call them out, kind of put that on, have fun with it, maybe put it in the newsletter, put it on social media to help it go a little bit more viral, like making news out of the news. The other thing I would do, potentially get people more excited, is I would start scaling the reward, right? So maybe it's like, every 24 hours, the amount of people who don't find it. Well, if people don't find it within 24 hours, right, you go and double the money, or you increase it by $20 or something like that. I would be careful about that though, right? Because that might mean that just no one gives a shit about it. And it's actually like a really bad, really
I mean,
bad.
we know what internet culture is like. If you do double it and give it to the next person, everyone is just going to be like guarding that street light and saying, no, you can't go and get it until it reaches an insane
Yeah,
amount
like
just to
it
like
could go
bankrupt
like a
you.
couple different ways. So I'd definitely be
So,
careful on that. Or if it has no traction whatsoever, like it just means it kind of sucks and no one cares. So I'd be careful about that. But if you're getting some traction and no one finds it in 24 hours, be like, holy crap, like I could just double this, or 10x it. Or you could even go out and be like, hey, a local sponsor that maybe it's a local restaurant, and you can go to them and say, hey, like we're getting, this thing is going super viral. No one's found it yet. I think we have another, 36 hours before someone figures it out. Can you give $1,000 gift card or a $500 gift card to your restaurant or store or something like that? A few things that I would do to gamify it more, make it a little bit more
just
exciting.
before we get into that, one quick thing.
Yeah.
Isn't I like this. It's interesting. I had completely the opposite reaction to you, where you said I want to make this more viral and bigger. My thought was like, okay, I want to make this smaller and more targeted to people who live in Baltimore, like who would be a good audience for my newsletter. I'm like, I don't want a million views. Like, I want the next one to get like 50,000 or 100,000 views, but I want it to get me like 20,000 followers or 5,000 email addresses or something. I was like, I don't want like if you have a, I don't know how big Baltimore is. I'm guessing it's like what, 500,000, couple 100,000 people ish probably.
Yeah. I would imagine maybe a million people.
Okay, even that's okay. So but it's not everybody in Baltimore is not watching that reel. I think 90% of the people who watch that are useless to that newsletter, right? Um, so I would be trying to like do the opposite and be like, okay, how can I make this smaller and how can I
Yeah, but
like
what's
pull
the
out
point of
people who
it
can.
being what's the point of it being smaller? Like the more it's a law of numbers on social media. Like I get it. Like if there's people in Argentina watching it, like it's pointless. But I think if there's people generally sharing it in the Baltimore area or the surrounding areas, a good thing.
Oh no, I don't think it hurts. Like I don't think it hurts to get a lot of viewers, but you can tell from like the million views to only getting a couple of thousand followers and hardly any email addresses, like that is not, it's not reaching like your audience, right? Like you have not just, if you're building a newsletter that's all about the best places to eat in Baltimore, um, getting a million views is nice, but you haven't increased the number of people who want to read about good places to eat in Baltimore, right? So I don't know. Unless you can do something else with them at some other point.
My clapback to that would be the things that get picked up by local news, and you want this to get picked up by local news. I think that should be the North Star for every
Oh,
local
I
newsletter.
love that angle. Yeah,
Is
if you can turn this into earned media, whereas like a PR
Yeah.
thing and like local newsletter.
And you know what they love, they absolutely love on local news is say, this viral newsletter or this viral tweet is, this viral TikTok. And so I think that would actually help. I know that's kind of like an edge case, but I do
No,
think
I
there's
agree. If
something to
that's
be said.
probably the most useful thing that could come out of that
Right.
number of views, right? Is like a local newsletter guy goes viral for this, and then
Right.
the actual that's the only like that's actually how you get the subscribers is from being like your newsletter being flashed up on whatever the local news channel is and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I think we're going to agree to disagree there. I think you should go viral. Anytime you can, I think more eyeballs are better than one.
You brought me round to that angle of it. Like I still think that getting millions of views is useless unless it's going to get you that earned media. I think with the earned media angle of like the PR, I like it. I can see that being useful. I take my words back on the usefulness of it.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. I have a few more things here.
Yeah,
I also want to gamify it a little bit more. And I would do something like I would I would actually do it on the front end, which I don't. Do you know how he was only collecting emails, I believe, from the link in bio? That's correct?
I think so. Yeah, he definitely didn't do what we saw from what Millie Tamati and others have been doing, which is you need to buy a really easy domain and put that inside of the reel itself and just leave it up the whole time, right? Like generalistquiz.com rather than
Yeah.
newsletter dot blah 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 dot whatever. So he
Yeah.
definitely didn't do that. He didn't make it easy to like end up on the
Yeah,
newsletter, I'm
or
sure.
even on something like Instagram, right? I would use like a many chat or something to do like
Yes. Comment for yeah.
giveaway contest, something like that, and get the sign up sent to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the other thing: is I would collect the email on the front end. So what I would do is think about making like the real video, and I don't know if it would go as viral. So maybe you'd be happy here. I would try to make the real video of it almost impossible to figure out where it would be. Say like I hid money in Baltimore somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you want another clue, you have to enter your email and I will send it to you, right? So rather than getting the email and just like hoping somebody wants to sign up for your newsletter for whatever random reason, they kind of associate you with giving money with them providing value in a newsletter, is like I would kind of force their hand and like put the clue behind an email gate basically.
That's something we're going to come back to, by the way, that I want to touch about because I have some ideas about this. Like, why it's not clear to me, like the link between uh, you want free money and you want to find out like restaurant reviews and like good places to eat in Baltimore. Like, I don't see a huge overlap in that that
So
audience, but yeah,
I actually think that's basically my last thing. I think that's actually a good thing to dive into because that's my biggest, I guess, overall problem with this is like I think it's a really cool idea. I actually want to try it, which we'll get into. I tried to plan something like this for the water coolest.
yeah.
I just think incentivizing people with cash is just a generally bad idea. I think it's fun, but of those 198 subscribers that he got, I can't imagine they're going to be great subscribers, right? They subscribe because they thought this thing was cool. They want to do the cash. So yeah, I agree. I don't see the link between the cash and the actual newsletter, unless maybe he was saying, go spend at a local restaurant or like I'm going to buy you dinner, which I think he might have said. But I'm not 100% sure about that, but maybe it would have been better to just have like a gift card to a local restaurant or, something like that.
Yeah, but then you don't get that instant like money, like what is this, right? Like if it's a gift card, it's like, huh? What's
Oh yeah, those
although
like
maybe you
five
get the mystery.
$20 bills looked really cool, like
Yeah.
taped to the yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, just before we move on to, and we're going to talk about like you were brainstorming how you do this for the water coolest. In his case, like I think if I were doing this again, I wonder if there's a way you keep everything that's good about it, make it slightly, potentially slightly less viral, like not quite to go as big, but to reach more of the right people and to get people interested on the list. So I wonder if there's something you can do where you partner up with restaurants and you don't say the name of the restaurant necessarily, or maybe you even do say the name of the restaurant. Like maybe you choose like a local burger place, right? And you say, in one of the burgers, if you go there on this day, one of the burgers is going to have like a golden something inside of it, right? There's going to
The
be a hundred
golden
dollar
piece
bill
of
inside.
cheese,
Yeah,
gold dip bacon.
or like $100 bill inside the burger, right? Like one of them tonight, like sponsored by us, one lucky person is going to get $100 bill, and it's going to
Yeah.
be paid. Like the bill will be paid for by me as well, right? Like for their meal.
Do you get a new burger after the $100 bill gets yours all dirty?
I am imagining it's like sealed in some, like something that's
Okay,
like edible, not edible, but like protected, like a plastic
I got
sealing
you.
or something. It's like I think that would be an interesting way of doing it. I think another way, like I really liked your idea of like having some sort of clue or something where like you just like a stronger link where it's like if you're doing that in the restaurant and it's like, oh, the first 10 people who go here today are going to get this on me, or the like it's in this restaurant and I've hidden $100 to pay for your meal under one chair, and like if you know the
Mm,
restaurant, go to it. And then the CTA becomes like, sign up here to be the first to know about like these free, like these challenges in the best restaurants in Baltimore or something, and that brings in more of the right people, right? So you can do something more like that. That's probably how I would do it. What I love about this isn't the money part; it's the fact that it's fun and it's viral and it's doing what people do with consumer apps and everything, like trying to grow the same way.
right.
Like, is there like a little bit different? Like, can you do like the viral Baltimore burger challenge, where if you go to these 5 places and eat a burger in each of these restaurants on the same day, and you post me the receipt, the first
Mm.
3 people to do this, I'm going to give $1,000 to or something,
Ooh, I like that.
because
Like
you
a
get
man
that.
versus food challenge, right?
Exactly, yeah. Like take
Yeah.
all those, like think in formats, take all those formats, put it locally, and then you have to put a little bit of money behind it. Like, but you're going to get earned media from it, right? How many people actually went and finished
Now
this? And
that's what the local news is going to love.
yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that, and then that also ties in so much better to eating Baltimore, right? Than just
yeah.
cold hard cash.
Maybe something to think about. I mean, if anyone's out there with a local newsletter does try something like this, like I would love to hear the results as well.
One last thing, why do you think that sort of stuff works, right? Whereas if I just said that I wanted to pay every person who signed up for my newsletter, if I went on and bought social ads and said I want to pay you $1 per subscriber, or $1 every time someone signs up, I will pay them $1, right? I probably wouldn't get that many subs. Or if I said you want to, subscribe and you have a chance to win $1,000, like, but why do you think when you add some layer of like you have to do something, people get excited about it?
I don't know. I think is that what's there is a like a psychological phenomenon, like there's a name for this, right? I don't remember the name. It's a marketing thing around the whole like the concept of being able to win something. It's uh Dishoom is a really great example of this. It's a restaurant in London, an Indian restaurant. It's super popular. Anytime you go there, basically during the week, you will have to queue or you have to reserve in advance. And there's apparently like a couple of hours a week, like I think like Monday to Thursday, if you go at like 2 to 4 p.m. or something like that, when no one is eating
Yep.
lunch or dinner.
Wait, is this the place where you roll the dice?
Yes, exactly.
I,
Yeah.
I literally saw that. It recently went viral in the
Yeah.
US, so I saw that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And people love that. People go and do that and they roll the dice. They'll go and eat at that time. And they're probably going to have to pay for the full meal, but they have the chance of not doing. I've wanted to build something like this weirdly. Like I've been playing around with it for paid newsletter subscriptions, where you
Yeah.
basically say like, hey, it's going to be $5 or whatever. Like it's going to be $50 for the year, but like roll the die as when you sign up, and maybe it'll be $2, maybe it'll be 5, maybe it'll be 50. You'll see what it ends up being. And
Mhm.
that kind of like, I don't know what that like marketing sort of like what the name for it is, but that seems to work really well. I think it's something like that, right? Where it's like $1 to subscribe to a newsletter. Like I don't really want $1, but if you give me a chance to win $100 or a chance to win $1,000, like that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. And I like the idea of trying that for a subscription or something, right? Because with that restaurant example, right? They basically just talked about is like they backed out in the math. It's really just it's basically just doing like call it a 20% discount. I forget what the exact math was, but they're
Yeah.
doing it in like a much more gamified viral way, right?
Yeah.
So, rather than just saying, "Hey, we have a happy hour special," like come in and do this and people eat it up.
And it's about the story, right? It's about like that feeling of like, hey, we got this for free. Like we beat the
Yeah.
system. We're the winners. So that's
Yep.
kind of the same with the burger. Like if you do that, what I was talking about with the burger challenge, you say like, hey, go eat at this restaurant. Not only like everyone who does it and mentions me is gonna get a free dessert or like a $5, and plus one person today is gonna win the $100. If you
Hmm.
don't win it, you had a really nice meal and it was a fun story. And if you do win it, you feel amazing, right? So like there's no real loser out of it, which is kind of cool.
So one thing that I was starting to think as
Yeah.
we were talking about this all week as you kept sending it to me, it was like this is great for a local newsletter, right? It makes sense if people are in close
Yeah.
proximity, but how do you actually build this on a newsletter at scale that's has readers around the world, or at least in the US? So I started building this out and trying to figure out how I could actually build this out for the water coolest. So I want to walk through this live with you, get your reaction. Let's critique this and maybe I'll try to build it out.
Let's do it. And I guess just real quick for listeners who maybe are new, the Water Coolest is your newsletter. It's I guess like a daily update on like finance. How would you pitch it? I guess.
Yeah, we the way I pitch it is we talk about the markets and the main characters that run the show and basically what it means for the rest of us. So it's really a daily finance newsletter. Super irreverent, a lot of fun, but yeah, has subscribers all across the world, of course, about 100,000 subscribers. So something like what we just talked about with Eating Baltimore just inherently wouldn't make sense for most newsletters, I would say, just because
Yeah.
they have no real geographic standpoint. Like I probably could pull something like this off in maybe New York because a lot of my readers are there. But quite frankly, I'm scared to go to New York, so we'll do it on the internet instead.
Very nice. Okay. Well, what do you got for me? What did you come up with?
All right, here we go. So what I'm going to do is it's going to be called Operation Secure the Bag, and that's kind of a reference to something that a section that we used to have in the water coolest, so people would be familiar with it. It's kind of an online, finance saying. I'm going to say that I'm hosting, an internet cash drop. It's called Operation Secure the Bag. What I would do is not unlike what Matt did is I would record a video of probably myself. Maybe I'd do some B-roll talking about it. Obviously, I'm not going to be taping cash, but I'm going to make it obnoxious. I'm probably going to have like a bag of cash or something like that. I think that's actually probably the best thing that Matt did was, the video. And I think that's why you were so interested in it is, he really used all those elements that work on social media for other types of brands of, showing the cash, taping it up, getting people excited. So I think that's really important. And that's probably key to most of the success here, especially if you're doing it on the internet. And one thing I would do is the next thing I would do is I would say you have to enter your email to get the first clue. So this is something I talked about that I think Matt would probably should have done. And I think it's just collect emails on the front end, right? So I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to say, you need to enter your email if you even want to be, part of this and enter the first clue. And I would probably give some urgency to it. So I would say like, hey, the first clue is launching, let's call it in the next 36, 48 hours or something. What I would potentially do is say that this is where like the nuance, and I actually think a lot of this could be cleaned up with like a chat GPT to ask them to think through the scenarios, because I think you need to be really careful about making it difficult enough and like putting barriers to it, but not making it so impossible that people are like, fuck that, I'm not doing it. Right. I think there's a really tough balance. And I think that's where a lot of this could fall apart. So one of the ideas that I'm not 100% sold on is maybe even giving a clue about when the first clue drops. right? So saying the first clue is going to hit your inbox at this specific time, and not give the actual time but give some clue around it. Maybe it's like the exact timestamp that Elon sent his famous 420 tweet, right? Something like that where it's related to my type of content. People have to go on a little bit of a hunt, and then that gives them an edge because in theory they can be waiting by their inbox when they know that the first clue is going to drop. Next step, we're going to send that first clue. So it's going to come. You only get it if you had signed up, of course, for Operation Secure the Bag. I'm going to send it from the water coolest. And then what I'm going to do is the actual clues for this cash drop to be the winner are going to be buried in my newsletter, right? So the idea here is that I want people who just signed up for this to get familiar with my newsletter. And so I'm going to say, here's a couple of examples. In last Thursday's email, and I'll link to it, I called company the biggest shit show. I called this company the biggest shit show since pets.com, right? And then I'm also going to say, in last Friday's email, I discussed a company B, that treats employees like children, right? So there are two like kind of clues. They're not that hard. Like if you do a control F, if you read through my content, you're going to be able to find them. And then here's the thing: the first person to email me a picture of Company A's mascot at this email address, which is Company B's ticker symbol at thewatercoolest.com, gets the cash. So let's say it was uh, pets.com, right? I don't know exactly what their logo or exactly what their mascot is. Let's assume it's a dog. They're going to send me a picture of a dog at Company B's email address, ticker symbol, which let's call it Starbucks, SBUX at thewatercoolest.com, and that person wins the cash. It definitely needs some work, and I think it could be a little bit complicated, but my goals here, again, I would like run this through ChatGPT a ton of different iterations to be like, is this too difficult? Is it too confusing? Could people figure it out within, a couple of minutes? I think that's the goal. But basically, I want to make sure that I collect emails on the front side, and two, that I make people or force people to kind of read through my email because I want people to be excited about it and be able to show off like what are the best aspects of it, right? So it's kind of like the funniest lines from my newsletter, or maybe I make a clue about one of the memes or gifs or something that's in there, and that gets people excited. I will stop there. I know it's a lot to digest, but what are your general thoughts on doing that?
Interesting. I mean, I have a bunch of ideas, but I guess my initial sort of like feedback on this pitch on it is like, I think the really hard thing with social video, like this kind of like TikTok, Instagram Reels kind of thing, is you have to also make the video has to be very watchable. And you're almost in danger if you have something where most people who continue watch, like people are either going to switch away from this because they're not interested in participating, or they're going to go through and actually go and put their email address in, right? But either way, I think you run the risk here of people leaving in a bad way or a good way, but like they're going to be shutting Instagram or TikTok to go to the browser, or they're going to be closed, or they're going to be swiping through really early in both cases, to the point where TikTok and Instagram are going to be trained to go, okay, I shouldn't show this to a lot of people because it's going to either get them to move on to the next thing, so it's not great, or worse, it's going to get them to leave TikTok completely, which is like the last thing we want if it's a lot of people, because that
Okay.
ruins all of their sort of viewing session, right? So I think that's a potential challenge that I would have with this.
I think I
Yeah.
think quick fix there is potentially we say, we pull the old watch till the end, right? And maybe it's like the email address or the website that they need to go to. And I love your point about having like a very memorable, URL that they can go to sign up for. And maybe that's the URL and it's only revealed at the end. So you almost get that similar effect of somebody, zooming and showing, where we are in Baltimore and getting people excited about where they have to go.
So I think if I were going to do this for the water coolest, I did not prepare this at all, but I think I would probably, I don't think that this format, like I don't know who this was a while ago. I heard someone talking about how short form video on social is like a real expert, like talking about how this is all about thinking in formats. I don't know if this would be like the very best. I mean, I think it's worth trying. Like, why not? Doesn't cost a lot to give it a
Right.
go. And you could iterate on it. But like, I would question whether this is like the format for the water coolest. And two others that I think off the top of my head might potentially have more legs. So the first one is man on the street, like quizzes, pop quizzes. Go to New York, be in New York, talk to people who work in finance, talk to anyone who will be happy to stop and talk to you. Have the money in your hand, and say like, hey, I'll answer 5 questions about finance, personal finance, whatever it is. Get them all right. I'll give you $200. I'll give you $500, whatever it is. Right.
Yep.
Maybe even go like higher and have like maybe there is something like I don't know, like you can like have a competition between the two of them. Like the winner gets this, the loser gets this or something, right? If it's two friends, to make more interesting. And then you have like the really easy question at the beginning that everyone knows, so they continue watching, and then you sort of go up to the point where they're sort of screaming answers, and then your pitch at the end is kind of like think how well would you do? Take the like find more quizzes like this here, like test your knowledge here, and that takes them to your quiz, or didn't like only got 2 out of 5, didn't get all 5 right. 100,000 people stay up to date on what's actually important over here, right? I think that could be one. The other one that I think you could potentially do is if you're doing some sort of quiz, or if you're doing some sort of like giveaway inside of your newsletter, I would go more the sort of like the hacked viral route that consumer brands do, and podcasts do a lot of this nowadays, which is to basically pay a load of UGC creators to do some sort of reel where they're showing like talking head video green screen over your newsletter and say, you see this line here or this thing here, this earned me $1,000 because all I had to do was look for this one thing in this finance newsletter, figure out the one thing, like the one, what is it, like the one like ticker symbol that was wrong or misspelt or something.
Yeah.
Let them know, and I won $1,000. And here's where you can go sign up and try this every week, kind of thing. And then you get people who, as long as it's something that only that kind of person would be able to get, you'll get people who are interested to go in and do that, for example.
That's an interesting way to do it. I kind of like that. I actually really like playing off and that was one of the original ideas I had was playing off the misspellings, because I feel like that gets people in newsletters so fired up. I would say 25% of my the emails, the responses that I get back are people just complaining about oh, you spelled this wrong, or you said you used there wrong, something like that. And if you put some of that stuff in there and somehow gamified an actual spelling, and I like the idea of, especially with my audience, if you did ticker symbols that were wrong or something, it's like something people kind of know but like aren't really sure, so you have to pay attention to it. So it's like the the name of the company, then the ticker symbol. And if I did the wrong ticker symbol, like if you point that out, there was one this week, the first person to get it to me wins the prize. That's kind of an interesting, it's like an ongoing game that everyone's kind of playing in real time.
Yeah, and if you just have it like every week, and then you can get people in, and you don't have to give away that much money for that to keep going viral. Because if you're using different accounts to post this, you can get like 1,000 here, 1,000 there, and if you have 100 people do variations of that video, one of them is going to hit hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views, and get you tens of thousands of subscribers.
That's super interesting, and yeah, I've thought about that for a while. I was like, almost making like a prize pool, and kind of in the finance realm, calling it like a dividend, being like, hey, we make money from advertisers. Here's like, every week there's like a percentage of, the advertiser revenue I'm going to give away to fans. And maybe that's, one of the ways I do it. I think it's a super interesting way. It's like a reward and incentive to keep people coming back to the newsletter, but then you can also use it, to your point, on the outside, getting people in. And what I love is it's a hell of a lot easier than the thing that I tried to explain before.
It's less work. I think the Roka News did something kind of related on Instagram, right? They blew up their original newsletter audience with Gen Z by basically saying, for every sign up, we'll donate, I think, $2 to charity, to clean energy, I think it was. So that's kind of an interesting one, where it's like, if you offer me $2 to sign up for your newsletter, I don't want to do it because it's insulting and makes me feel cheap. But if I'm going to give $2 to charity, yeah, of course I'll sign up for your newsletter. Why not? So that one's another interesting way.
Yeah, I've done that. I've tried that as for part of my referral program, and I do want to try to bring it back. It did okay. It did better than like the standard referral program, but it was the same thing. Like I was hearing from my audience, like more than 50% of my audience makes $200,000 a year, right? So giving them a couple dollars or something, or a $5 gift card to Starbucks is kind of like they don't need that money, but yeah, they feel better about themselves if I give $2 to Habitat for Humanity or something like that.
I wonder if you're trying for that audience as well, then like I wonder how, like you probably have to go up a notch in terms of value. And maybe, I think, was it last week or a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about like swag from like Lehman Bros and places like that. I think that may be almost more the kind of thing that could work for you, right? Like something that they can't buy, something that has a story behind it.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the person who has everything. Like, what do you buy them, right? And yeah, I think it is something that's like super exclusive that they can't get their hands on. That's not like crazy expensive, but it's just more difficult to get.
Or something that like that golden thing is like something that you would never buy yourself, but that you would like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want,
That
you know what I mean?
you would want to wear and then like
Yeah.
talk about, right? But you would, yeah, I agree. You would
But it's like
never
it's lame to be the one who bought it for themselves, kind of thing.
exactly.
If you
Yeah.
can find that. Yeah.
Okay. So my takeaway there is I'm probably not going to try this viral cash drop, but I think I am going to try some sort of contest where I'm doing something, hiding something in the newsletter that the both the current readers can get rewarded for, and then we can also use it as you know uh, a drive for subscribers.
We'll see how it goes.
More to come on that.
Pull back.
All right, so I know we have another topic today. Again, it's a Louis show today. You had something else that you sent me that you really wanted to get into. Of course, it's related to AI. So I'm going to give you the floor. I know you have a lot to say about this.
Okay, well, where are we going to start? So we've talked a bunch, I think, over the last couple of weeks about how AI is going to change newsletters, the newsletter space, newsletter creation. And that's pretty much where we've focused, and most people are focusing all of their time, right? Is on how is AI going to make it easier to write newsletters, to automate creating newsletters, lead magnets, newsletter websites, blah, 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 right? It's all about like the creation. But something that we haven't really talked all that much about, I think, is the other side, the content consumption, right? The people who are reading the newsletters, because AI is going to start summarizing things. Gmail, Apple Mail, actually Yahoo, I don't know, maybe not, but Apple Gmail, we'll see. They're definitely going to build in, and they're already starting to build in like AI generated summaries, right? So
Yep.
I think we need to be realistic that like 10, 12, 18 months from now, probably a lot of the emails that are in people's inboxes, they're not necessarily going to default to actually reading that email. They're going to read a summary. And I think we don't know what that looks like yet, right? Like that might be like an auto-generated summary of like the last couple of emails that you received in the last hour, right? Like here's just like, here's what you received. Let me know if you want to dig into anything in here, right? Like to open one up or something. Because the inbox is a place where it's like you consume content, but there's also like just there's actual work in there as well, right? So
Right.
everything kind of gets mixed up. And I was thinking about like what I want from AI, like how it would improve my sort of content consumption. And if you think about like Morning Brew, like they write an email to 4 million people that is essentially like a summary of what you might need to know in the day. But it's not really a summary for any one person, right? It's like for sort of a blend of what they think the average of those 4 million people is going to be interested in or should be interested in.
Yep.
And I was thinking like, well, what would my morning summary look like? Like I want some news about like swimming, right? The world championships in swimming is going on right now. I'm a huge swim nerd, so I want to know about that. I want news from like the newsletter communities that we're in and what's happening in the newsletter space. People that we like follow on social, for example, like LinkedIn, X. I want to see what they're writing there. There's a bunch of Reddit communities that I'm in, like watch communities, newsletter communities, stuff happening here in the city that I live in. Like I want the best sort of highlights of that pulled out, right? And ideally even like what's happening like in my social life. Like I would like to know like whose birthday is it, right? And not like,
Right.
but like that kind of thing, right? It would be cool to see, or like if a friend from LinkedIn got a promotion or like lost their job or something like that, right? I want to know about that. Just like start my day in like 10 minutes. Like here is like what's on your plate, basically, I guess. Like the stuff that you really need to know. And I know so many people who are actually like working on this. And I think even outside of like the inbox tools, we're going to see a big shift away from a morning brew sort of like content aggregation pushed onto everybody into something that is really unique and personal to that individual reader, right? And maybe it's not something that you read. Like, I don't want to read this. I want it as a podcast. I want to like just someone in my ear telling me all this stuff in 5-10 minutes
Mhm.
while I'm making breakfast, right? It's a lot easier to do that. So I think the people that are thinking about what AI is going to do to newsletters and like how we consume newsletters, I think a lot of them are panicking, and I think they probably are right to panic, right? I think if you think about what's coming, a lot of people, if you just write like a generic newsletter that can be summarized by AI, that means most people aren't going to bother to read the actual newsletter. So no one's going to see your ads. So your business model probably just died, right? In the next
Mhm.
year, 2 years, basically, all that's disappearing. So yeah, I mean, I'll stop there for a second. Like, do you agree,
But I mean,
disagree?
don't you? I think that's just making a pretty big leap, though, right? That we just assume we know what how Gmail is going to treat email, right? Like that's the problem that I have with that. Like, I'm not saying I totally agree. AI is going to change email. I'm just sitting here and saying I don't know how it's going to change it, and I don't know if it's going to be a summary, if I'm going to log into Gmail and it's just going to look like Gemini, and I'm going to say, "Hey, what happened today? Who emailed me?" And I'm going to be responding like in a literal chat with my little AI assistant. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe I'm naive, and obviously, I feed my family and afford this lovely basement with a newsletter that's mostly ad driven. So I am probably being a little bit naive and hopeful, but I just don't know that it's going to change all that much in the next couple of years. I'm just not totally convinced yet, and I think that's probably like consumer preference. I'm sure things are going to shift, but like I just don't see things overnight. Everyone's saying, I just want an AI summary of everything that's in my inbox, right? That's a big buy-in just from a human perspective or consumption perspective. And I would say even us who are fairly, tech forward, thinking about this stuff pretty regularly, like I even say like I don't know that's how I want to consume, right? It's maybe it'll get to that point where it's good enough, but I'm not sure that I'm there, personally.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair point. Right? I don't think this is a I don't think it's an instant extinction level event, right? I don't think 100% of people are changing over the next 2 years.
Like I think as soon as people saw the Gmail summary pop up, it was like LinkedIn was just full of the gurus being like, it's so over for us. And I've said that before, and I do have concerns about it, but the more I digest it and think about it, I just don't agree with you. I don't think it's this extinction level event now. I think it may be more of a slow trickle where we're going to see some of our ad dollars eaten away even more than they already are by some of these summaries, but it's not going to be this overnight switch.
I don't think overnight, but I think it's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see anything on this for the next few months, but I think it is going to be something that happens relatively quickly once it starts to happen. We're going to see people talking and talking and talking at small, and then I think it is going to go boom because I think Apple and Gmail are going to just switch this on. We'll talk in a sec, I think, about like who is not going to be as impacted by this and maybe how you can minimize the impact or like take advantage of it. But I do think it is not going to be long until like as soon as somebody has a popular consumer app like that will give you that 10-minute roundup, and it's something that is even like maybe it's just built into Apple and Google at some point, right? Like maybe it's just probably there will be a native one. As soon as you have that, very few newsletters I think are going to make the cut. If you just give like a roundup, a summary of links, a digest, I think you're really going to struggle to get people to actually sit down and read that, rather than to get like the summary of, oh, so and so sent through this link, like
Yeah.
the sort of those summaries that you will get. So I do think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be everybody in 2 years, but I do think in 2 years, 30, 40, 50% of people who matter will be doing this. And that's enough with where ads are currently at for that to be a huge problem, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay. So let's assume there's a world where all of a sudden things go to AI summary, like the inbox is AI summarized. You're just, working with Gemini or ChatGPT or, whatever platform. How do you think you prepare today for that future if you're a newsletter operator?
Well, I was trying to think about like what kinds of newsletters are not going to be hurt by this, right? We don't know exactly what the AI summary is going to look like. Is it a podcast? Is it a summary at the beginning of the day? Is it just every email like defaults to a summary and like a quick thing like should you look at this or not, and sort of gives you the highlights and auto responds to stuff for you? I don't know what it's going to look like, but like what, no matter what it looks like, what form it takes, what newsletters are not going to be affected by this? I think there are three buckets of newsletters that are going to be okay. I think the first one
Water
is
coolest.
well, hopefully, right? You tell me where you think you fit it. So I think the first one is newsletters where people want to read what the author has written specifically from the author themselves, right? So if you think about like AI summaries can come for everything. They can do video, they can do audio, they can do written words.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody who's writing a novel today, nobody who's like filming a movie, producing a movie, no one who makes music is worried about an AI summary like taking away from their viewership, right? And I think the same thing is true if you write something that people are reading it not just for the content, but because they want to read the words that you have written. They want what you have said, specifically the way you have said it.
Yep.
I think you're okay. I don't think Morning Brew makes the cut on that, by the way. I think they write well. I think they have a nice voice and a distinctive style. I don't think that matters. I think the fact that the content is not personalized to you is outweighed by the fact that they have a nice writing style and sometimes have funny jokes.
I totally agree with you there. And that's why with the water coolest, like I've been working on a rebrand, and it's actually like leaning even more into voice. The focus is on me, the person bringing you, right. And that was a very, we've talked about it before, but that was like a very big decision on my end, right? It's like, do I want to like lean into Tyler being connected to this? Obviously, it's been my voice for the past 8 years, but we never really leaned into that. And the reason was, hey, how are we going to be able to sell it, or something like that? Have an exit strategy down the road if it's intertwined with me. And now I think that's actually, it's an existential threat if I don't do that, right? Because I agree, like if you're just voiceless and you're faceless, or if you have a voice but you're kind of faceless, I think people are going to tune out. And I agree, something like the Morning Brew is probably on the chopping block before me. That's not to say that I don't think I'll be AI summarized, but I think there's a hope that people get to the bottom of the AI summary and hit read more because they want to know what my opinion was on things.
Yeah, like your specific take, right? Like I think part of it's like, I think of it more as like the enjoyment, right? Do I enjoy consuming the content in this way, or would I be happy to get a summary? Because
Yep.
we said like with like for me, like a nonfiction book, for example, I would be very happy to get a more efficient summary of it. But there's no way I want, like if I'm reading fiction, it's for pleasure, it's because I enjoy the reading. That would be insane of me to want like a summary of it rather than
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I thought the one of the best apps, which I don't know, it feels like it never really took off, was Blinkist. I don't know if you remember that, but they basically summarized those. It would be like Atomic Habits, and they'd give you the 15-minute version, and it was amazing because you could just read through all those books, like how to influence people, all those nonfiction books that were so important and everyone talked about and were on everyone's bookshelf. You could read those in 15-minute summaries, and they just hit on the high level, and all the value was packed into these little podcasts that they gave you. I think that's great, but that's where like commodity content is going to get absolutely massacred.
Yeah, for sure. So the second one that I had is paid newsletters, right? So if you're creating content that's original and the only way that you can get it is to pay for access, then I think you're okay. And the reason I think you're okay there is because then it doesn't matter if anyone ever reads your newsletter, because even if they're getting the AI summary of it, whatever form that takes, they've still had to pay to get access to that so that the AI can summarize it, right?
As long as they're getting the value out of it in the AI summary, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Like if I'm signed up to, like I pay for Jacob Badonley's a media operator newsletter. I very rarely, to be honest, have time to read it. I wish that there was an AI summary of that already every day, or like a couple of times a week that he posts new stories, that their team posts new stories now. Like I would love to consume that content. I just don't have time to read it. It's well written. There's nothing wrong with the way it's written, just I don't have time. But I want the value out of it, right?
I think that's even like we talk about market beat a lot, right? It's like I'm sure they give these in-depth research reports, but or Motley Fool even, right? It's like I would pay for their service, and I would love to just have the stock pick and the 3 bullet points on why I should buy it, and then I can think about if that aligns with my investing philosophy and go make the decision. Right?
Yeah.
It's a I don't need to read 1,000 words on something like that. So, and I'm sure those guys companies like that are already leaning into it. But
Yeah.
I agree. It's like I'm paying for it. I'm still getting the exact same value out of
I
it.
just want to clarify this because I saw a take online that I did not agree with on this, which was that, oh yeah, if you have really good content that would be worth paying for, original content, you're going to be fine. You don't need to worry about AI like in the inbox, because if you have original content, ChatGPT can't summarize it. The reader will read your original content, and I don't think that's true at all. Like if you have really original content that's worth paying for, but it's free, the AI is going to summarize it in your inbox like it does with all content. You did not get paid for that, right? If you don't have another business model, like it's not about the quality of the content. If you're writing in a way that's really enjoyable to read, the first point, right? Great. But you actually have to make people pay for the content if it's not going to be read directly, if it's going to be read by the AI to them, because otherwise, how are you going to make money? Because you're not getting the ads, right? Which actually takes me to the third one, which was where I think a lot of the industry is going to move. And maybe the water coolest potentially, I think it does fit partly into bucket number one, but maybe it moves a bit in this direction as well, is going back to newsletters being notifications. In the old days, right, people didn't do editorial newsletters and include the content in them. The way what you did was you had your email list, that was your own audience. You would tease different content that you'd written on your site. People would click through, visit the site. On the site, you would have ads and all that fun stuff where you could make money. And I think that's probably where a lot of people are going to go back to, right? You optimize the newsletter content to be little teasers. So when the AI summary comes along, it goes, Louis wrote about how he did this thing, and I don't know how he got 5,000 subscribers for his newsletter overnight. And then you're like, okay, yeah, I want to dig in and click on that. And then you go to the site, you get the original content, you get the ads, blah, 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 blah.
And the funny thing is that AI will probably write a better hook for you than
Yes.
you can even write.
Yes.
The one concern there would be with like an agent, though, right? We're already seeing this with ChatGPT. What stops Gemini, or let's just use Gemini for Gmail, it just clicking on that link, going to that and summarizing it and bringing it back for you. So there might be a loophole on AI there.
I did think about that. So I think Cloudflare, that's where they're suggesting micropayments, which I don't think is realistic. I don't think people are going to pay like 25 cents to be able to scrape that, like, whatever it is, like 2 cents to get access to that content. I don't think the model works for anybody. But I do think Cloudflare, like, it will be a battle, but Cloudflare and others will effectively say, bots, you're not allowed to scrape our site. Like, you have to be human. And it's going to be a battle, and they won't get it right every time. But I think we'll be forced into like walled gardens where maybe it's like you have to be logged in on that site and it has to be a human and blah, blah, blah. The other thing that AI is not so good at yet is like summarizing like actual video without a transcript and stuff. So Morning Brew, I think they don't really fit into one for me. They don't really fit into number two for me. They could fit in here, where if you see all the stuff they're doing with like, is it called Good Work by Dan Toomey and that stuff, right? Like the videos and everything, like they are building up really good on site and like outside of the newsletter content that, to be honest, in a year, 2 years, the main newsletter could basically just be a vehicle for like good content they've produced elsewhere that's actually entertaining and that people want to visit, right? So they'll still make the money. They can do the sponsorships in the YouTube videos, which probably make way more than the newsletter. They can do they monetize through AdSense and all that stuff on the site. So I think that's the way that they could be okay, probably, right? Is to go back to treating the newsletter as just like a notification where you link through to the content.
Yeah, I mean, I've even thought about that, and I've mentioned it before. Not even like taking AI out of the equation here is, I think, even from an economic perspective, we could be making a full circle moment where we're getting back to the point where you do, and I like the idea of, you calling it kind of a notification, is an email just being a notification to bring to the site, because the way that CPMs are dropping in newsletters and everything is becoming performance driven, you're almost better off driving people to a website and monetizing them there. And obviously it's a
Yeah.
little bit more friction, but there's going to be a point where it probably evens out or even flips, where you're much better off just driving people to the website, which is crazy to think. But it's also, there's something to be said about that, where I think that number on the the website side is going to go up because they're going to be getting less traffic from other sources, so email traffic is going to become more valuable. I think to your point, even with the AI, I think that's one reason to potentially test or think about, just hitting people with the read more and sending them to a website. But I think economically and financially, there's probably also going to be a point where that actually makes more sense.
Yeah. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot here with this. I'll keep them anonymous, but I've talked to a bunch of people who run newsletter ad networks, people who run on-site publisher ad networks, and publishers who have all said the same thing, that they are starting to see a bunch of people who they will earn more if they don't put the content in the newsletter. They link through to the newsletter. So they link through to the article on the website, and then they have, I won't name we all know names, right? It's like AdSense, Ezoic, Carbon Ads, there's a bunch of them.
Yep.
They earn more from doing that, even though they get way fewer people actually. Like fewer people will see ads, way fewer people, but they earn a lot more.
And I think the business model, even, thinking about myself and my own business, like the the model for ads is so broken in the newsletter space, right? It's literally like a copy and paste back and forth exercise. If you could just tell me that I could make the same amount of money for just sending people to my website and putting AdSense on there and not have to think about it, I just put a snippet of code, right? That's a big issue right now. And we talked to Jeff Eisenberg about that, is like they're trying to solve that for newsletters, but I think it's kind of a race for folks like them, is to try to make ads in newsletters a lot easier for both publishers and advertisers before it makes sense for all of us just to send all of our traffic back to a website, which is kind of crazy that we're coming full circle here. But I think that's how the economics are changing for the business.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing to stop you putting an ad in the newsletter for the few people who actually do see the site as well. I just think that's going to become more and more of a rounding error, especially as like the AI summarization takes off. You heard my take, I guess, on these three. Like, are you going to do anything? You already talked about how you're sort of leaning into bucket one of like personalizing more. What else are you like doing about this for the water coolest?
I would say like I'm not. I think the like my biggest moat, I realize, like, and I probably talked about this before, is like I kind of hate my business model. Right? It's an ad driven, consumer facing aggregation play. It's like the one type of newsletter I would never recommend anyone going into. I think I have an advantage because I've been around for 8 years. I've the Barstool audience that when I was acquired, and I think the voice is like my biggest moat that I can create, and so that's what I'm really leaning into. So like, whether you guys like it or not, water coolest readers, you're probably going to be seeing a lot more of me and a lot more of my name and a lot more of my voice, in the water coolest. And I think that's how I'm approaching it right now. I think the next thing is probably from a more technical perspective, is trying to be savvy about what happens when the AI summaries and start coming out. Like obviously no one knows anything right now about how Gmail's doing it. Most things are a black box with email anyways. But trying to figure out how to optimize for those, and potentially get the ads in there, or potentially get people out to the website, whatever it may be, to kind of save the business aspect of all of this. So just like people are trying to figure out, right, what is agentic engine optimization, right? So how do you get into chat GBT? Like how do you show up in the search there? No one really knows. Everyone's trying to figure it out right now. And I think that's the way I think about Gmail and Yahoo. Well, we talked Yahoo probably won't figure this out for another decade or so. But AOL and the Outlook, all of them, how they're going to summarize these, and then like how you can be part of that ecosystem and like build into it and play into it versus just look the other way, right? So I'm just kind of keeping my ear to the street. But yeah, I mean, no other kind of major technical changes on my end.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good. There's not much we can do yet without it rolled out on the technical side. Like, I think eventually we are going to end up with like almost like the way if I was starting a newsletter today, a new newsletter, like I would build for a future where AI is going to summarize everything. And unless like, because I'm not a great writer, right? I'm never going to have that newsletter that people read because they want to read it in my own words, right? Like my ideas are best expressed by somebody else or a robot, to be perfectly honest. I'm not the best sort of delivery vehicle for those. I'm totally cool with that. And I would be building a newsletter that's like a notification, right? So I'd be building it already for AI summary and almost thinking of it as like my newsletter is like almost like a human readable prompt, right? So like I would even now today start experimenting with like clearly saying like highlight or like putting that in comments in the code, for example, that the Gmail is actually going to read like this is the highlight section and like this is like the can't miss CTA and stuff like that. I think it'll take them a long time to catch on because like AI is smart, but it's stupid and it will follow things like that. So I think you will be able to do something like that for a while. But even if that doesn't help at all, I still think that idea of like it's going to be summarized very soon by more readers than you'd expect, who are not actually going to be reading it. So I'd be building community. I'd probably start a paid subscription. So it's login only, unique content. Even if you're not reading it, you're paying for the access, you're paying for the whatever it is, like the community spirit plus like the actual, you're paying for the content no matter whether it's AI or a human that's actually telling you. And then I'd be going all in on other like forms of content outside of the newsletter, like the way that people today like to consume content. So video, audio, social, community and events, right? Stuff like that outside that AI can't as easily replicate or like summarize, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking about something, right? Like, is it, and I know some of the ESPs have rolled out features where it's, we'll read your newsletter, we'll do kind of the podcast. And even thinking about, I think it's a more of a band-aid if you did something like, oh, I'm gonna, sit down and read my newsletter every day and put that in the email. And like maybe that's gonna help and I can monetize on YouTube or whatever. But like I think that's pretty short-sighted. Like ChatGPT is not great at it now, being able to go to YouTube, take a transcript, read it, but it's going to get there very soon. Like Gemini is already very good at it, obviously. So I think from that perspective, like, yes, I agree. I would go elsewhere creating content. I wouldn't necessarily like try to create the newsletter in some other format and deliver it in the inbox, because I think eventually it is going to catch up, and you might have bought yourself 6 months, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not worth it.
I don't know. I don't know what we're going to go. It's going to be a super exciting time, but I do think like if you have the voice, if you have the personality, if you write incredibly well and it's just an enjoyment, like it's enjoying to read, I think you can just ignore everything we've been talking about, to be honest. You're going to be absolutely fine. I think if you have a paid newsletter and it's paid because of the content or something, I think you're also going to be fine. Fewer people are going to read the content directly, but it doesn't matter, right?
The funny thing is, like, everything you're pointing to points towards people probably should use Substack.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I feel like everything is like it is such a ripe time, and I'm sure this was part of their pitch to raise at $1 billion valuation. Was like everything kind of points towards them. Is like it's mostly people who have like a strong original opinion. There's also like the app aspect, right, that can protect from some of this stuff
because you're not consuming the content in the inbox, which is not a natural home place for consuming content.
Yeah, maybe. So maybe I change my answer. I'm going to bring the water coolest over to Substack because I think the true answer.
Okay, cool. Well, should we leave it there?
Yes, that was a great conversation.